know to get the perfect cookies, we need to have the perfect consistency. What does that really mean though? So when you're dealing with royal icing, you have several different consistencies and ways to use them to make your cookies look better and to make your cookie decorating experience easier. Now these are kind of things that you learn over time, and so these are the things that I've learned to make my life easier. We really have two main consistencies. You have like an outline and a flood, which is what I talk about a lot of times. And of course there's different ranges between your outline to your flood. Some people's flood is quite thick and they need a scribe to thin it out. Mine is on the thinner side, where I like my flood to settle on its own. And a flood really just means that we're filling up that cookie. And of course, when we're piping it, you're going to see a few lines and you're going to see kind of the marks of where I went with the piping bag. But eventually, after a minute or so, that icing will just melt into itself, become nice and flat, and you shouldn't really see any lines or bumps, and it should be nice and smooth. That's the goal of our flood icing. Now when it comes to outline icing, this is really to outline our cookies, so hold in our flood so the flood's not rolling right off our cookie. And it's usually a thicker icing where, it holds its shape, it'll hold in the flood. And what it really means is there's just more powdered sugar in it and less water, which gives us a nice stiff icing. Now sometimes what I like to do is when I have smaller details, I like to use my outline icings to actually fill those areas. Now I'm talking about quite small areas where if I fill it in and smooth it with my scribe, it still smooths out. Now, of course, if your outline is really, really stiff that you can't even smooth it out, so let's say it's in your bowl, you're mixing it up with your spoon, you see the marks in your bowl and you're kind of shaking that bowl and it's not really melting a little bit, even just slightly, just kind of eliminating all the marks that you made with your spoon, that's a really stiff icing. But sometimes if you have one that's kind of a little bit looser, so, it holds its shape when it's piping, it's not going everywhere if you're putting a dollop of icing, it's not melting and spreading out. That's still outline consistency, but it can be used for those small details. And so what I like to do to keep things nice and puffy is just use that outline and then fill it in. Now if you make it thick enough on your cookie, so if you have a small section that you need to do a detail on, and then you fill that section with a lot of outline icing, it is much easier to smooth out. If you have a really thin layer, it's kind of hard to smooth out, but the more icing you have in that section, it's a lot easier. It almost kind of melts together faster when you have all that and you get your scribe in there. There's lots of times where if I only have small details in one color, I don't really want to make two consistencies if I only need a little bit of icing. I hope these tips help. Stay tuned for more on consistency as we dive into it, and I'll have some more tutorials for you guys. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.